Welcome to Quest Corp presents the Economic Times Future Workforce webinar on an all-new theme, Reimagining Workforce Productivity. I am Isha Bhalla and it's a pleasure to welcome all of you. The COVID-19 pandemic disrupted labor markets globally. We saw many new possibilities arising from the COVID-19 crisis, and the greatest one being the workplace transformation. The Economic Times Future Workforce webinar will see some of the best from the industry, be it HR professionals, global business leaders, renowned futurists who will be sharing their views, their experiences on how winning companies will navigate new trends. I'd like for all of you to please be set. As for our welcome address, I'd like to invite and welcome Mr. Ajit Isaac, Chairman, Quest Corp.
A warm welcome to all of you. The Future Workforce Conference by Quest, in partnership with Economic Times, has themed its discussions around reimagining workforce productivity. For many of us in this room, this is a hot button and a theme that is central to much of our day's activities. COVID, in addition to being a gap year in our lives, has forced us to rethink on how and why we do many things. The framework of arrangements between employers and employees has now changed rapidly, and so have expectations from employees and the culture and framework of an organization as well. The technology has been a constant disruptor of workplace. You'll find another change that's impacting work life in a big way, and that's diversity. Diversity has also created a more inclusive workplace. The evolution of the workplace has taken workplace collaboration to another level. Location is now completely agnostic along with time zones. People prefer to work from home and use office occasionally rather than having to work and clock in on a daily basis. Clearly, this has been a generational change for society in recent times. What are the drivers that change workforce productivity? First, the quality of recruitment. At Quest, our anthem is basically fit, flexibility, and friction. The second driver that can impact productivity is your model of employment. The third is skilling. Employee engagement has increasingly also gathered a lot more attention. Lastly, what is the partner ecosystem that a company has? So the choice of your partner is also key in defining the quality of changes that you can bring to productivity in your organization. So I want to welcome you again to this conference, and I look forward to an engaging session with all of you over the next few hours. Welcome again. Thank you.
So COVID really has brought to life the power of a very strong culture and communicative leadership in these very, very volatile times. So telling us more about the shifts which are defining the post-pandemic world, what should the leaders do in such scenarios, how and what should they be embracing, what are the key hurdles to accomplish, what are the various challenges that we are finding, and who better than him to tell us more? I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to Mr. Manoj Kohli, Country Head, SoftBank India, SoftBank Group International.
I believe that there have been many changes in the last decade. Pandemic has been a catalyst. It's been a catalyst in this future direction. I believe that the future is evolving. Maybe it'll take another 6 months, 12 months to evolve fully, but clearly future will be far more flexible, far more hybrid. Next 10 years will be bigger for technology impact than last 100 years. Whether it is digitization, end-to-end digitization, whether it is robots, drones, AI and machine learning, blockchain, and many other technologies which are coming in to our workforce. And the good news is that once you adopt all these technologies one by one in the next 10 years, the productivity levels of today can be doubled. So I'm very optimistic and hopeful about future of young Indians who are coming into profession, coming into entrepreneurial ventures today, and their productivity will definitely be one of the highest in the world. Thank you and all the best.
We're now all set to bring to you a very, very special address from our next speaker, from Mr. Lohit Bhatia, President, Workforce Management, Quest Corp.
About 22 months ago, the world declared COVID-19 as a pandemic. Over this period, the world and India alike have been on a completely roller coaster ride. India, which was cruising at about a 6% GDP growth rate prior to COVID, crashed to an all-time low of negative 7.9%. However, if you look at the encouraging signs of the last 11 months, the story is of recovery. It has been primarily led completely by vaccination. Our economy is also progressing well. The V-shaped recovery, which erstwhile was only seen and read in economics textbooks, is finally in front of us, and all of us can witness it. Now, what does the economy need? It predominantly needs fuel, and the fuel in this case being land, labor, and capital. So, money supply is not a problem. If you look at land, India is fortunate to have abundant land both for farm and non-farm productive use. What India definitely needs to sort out is labor. And labor is the immediate and the continued focus. Thank you, and over to you, Isha, and thank you, ET, for having me here.
Up next is a very interesting CEO fireside chat on workforce agility and upskilling for business transformation. I'm sure this session has a lot of learning for all of you, so let's listen in.
Rohit, starting with you, what has changed in the world in the last 2 years, and how you personally are thinking about your workforce, both at the top and at the front line?
I think the last 2 years, we have seen three big transformations which are making a big delta. We have seen a rapid acceleration of digitization, IoT in each of the spaces, right? Things which were on the cards in most companies on slow burner to be done over 5 years suddenly got done in 2 months and 3 months as the pandemic hit. And hence that brings about its own sets of challenges, especially in the manufacturing setup, where data analytics is not the core competence on which you have typically trained your workforce. The second one is, I think these 2 years has given a lot of time for people to sit back and reflect on what they want to do with their lives. And that is bringing about a big change in how workforce is looking at work and the workspace. As a CEO, the role that we play in an organization has changed. And to me, the CEO now stands for Chief Engagement Officer, Chief Empowerment Officer, and increasingly Chief Empathy Officer. And I think these three E's is the more apt definition for a CEO today than probably a few years ago.
Amit, entrepreneurization, does that mean that, for instance, a lot has been said about the gig economy, and you've got a lot of startups working both in the technology sector, but also in the grey collar space. Is that something that you think is here to stay? And what role do you expect that to play, for example, in the OLX workforce going forward? What % of the workforce will they be?
While the idea emanates from the initial success of, let's say, the shared cabs for gig economy, because that's the torchbearer of how things have changed in last few years. But I do believe that this shift will be, again, a shift which will be broad spectrum across what I don't like to classify as blue, gray, and white collar. I think as people and as workers or as entrepreneurs, we will have greater freedom to choose from, and organizations will give us greater freedom to choose in also. Right? And I think this is a shift you will see accelerating over a period of time. I think the earlier industrial revolution model of building factories has been disrupted by COVID. COVID has made location redundant for a lot of things. And that has created flexibility for people to work from tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 towns. I think we are looking at gig economy increasing and growing across sectors and across segments. And as OLX also, we will see wherever we can fit it in and give more opportunity and benefit from it.
Amit, what are the 3 things that you engage with your HR team on in the last month?
The first one, how do we get the right talent fast? The second one, how do we continue to engage with a team which is growing very rapidly? The third one is more about trainings and skill development at the ground level. And we run a large retail footprint. So how do we continuously engage those people and upskill those people so that they continue to be more and more productive?
Rohit, over to you.
I think transformation and engaging with the workforce is the biggest area that I spend time on. We're designing different programs for different groups or cohorts within the business to work with them. Second is recruiting. I think there is a lot of opportunity to get in the right talent, and hence each recruitment is an opportunity to bring change. And I think third for us is still, I would say, keeping a very close eye on how many people have been vaccinated, how many families have been vaccinated. Is our health infrastructure ready in case a third wave was to come? Not just at the plant, but also for the remote workforce. So I think a lot of my time still goes on that to ensure that we are ready and prepared.
Thank you very much, Rohit and Amit, for sharing your thoughts today. I've certainly learned a lot.
Thanks, Suraj. Pleasure.
Thank you very much.
We're all set to begin with our panel discussion on humanize and digitize building next-gen workplaces for the modern workforce. So a lot coming up for our delegates right here, thanks to our panelists on board.
Let me start with a question that what are the organizations in different industries trying to achieve with the digitization of the workforce? And Rajeshwar, will go over to you for your comments on this.
I think it's a massive leap. What is happening right now? So, of course, the top of the mind, the top of the recall is productivity. And when we say productivity, I think it's the right tool in the hands of people for doing the work, for doing it better, for doing more and more with the same resources, whatever way you want to define productivity. So that's absolutely an imperative. The second is, I think, look at the speed and agility expectation in the entire world in a very complex ecosystem. It's no more standalone organizations, very networked, and the kind of speed and agility which is required in terms of time to market, response to customers, and even in all the other stakeholders. In order to manage the very complex environment, complexity, highly networked organizations, digitization has completely changed the way the organizations work.
Vinod, you come from a totally different industry, which is technology oriented. What are your views?
Say the digitized workforce was never a planned intervention. It came as something which was there for sustain the businesses, to deliver to your client, to deliver to your stakeholders. But over a period of time, if you look at last 2 years, it has become kind of a regular operating model now. And the regular operating model for a lot of reasons. Say if you look at it from technology standpoint, technology has enabled this virtual working, has enabled digitized workforce, has enabled even digitized workplaces. And this has realized, I think, the whole industry, the organization, the benefits that it has brought in. The benefits is in terms of if we look at it from employees' perspective, they have got a lot of flexibility in terms of how they operate, what hours of the day they operate, and so on and so forth. And if you look at it, what purpose it is achieving, say for the industry, for the organization, while the cost benefits are one, which are across industries. Now, if I look at it from recruitment HR standpoint, we have gone to say tier 3, tier 4 cities since work from home has enabled. So people who were earlier were not able to make it to metros or the nearby operating center, they are now our employees. In the last 2 years, so we have penetrated almost into 60 tier 3, tier 4 cities. And what has happened indirectly, while we have gone to tier 3, tier 4, the diversity ratio has improved significantly.
So we've spoken about benefits. Let me just talk about it totally, just the flip side. Rajesh, I'd love to hear from you. Do you see any risks to the business from digitization? Are we overdoing it? Where are we? What's your opinion?
The risks that I see, frankly, are that, a lot of entry-level jobs that are currently transactional in nature may or may not exist in the future. There's a question mark. They may be taken over by the processes and by the systems that these bring in. Is that a bad thing? Perhaps not. We need to be ready that the jobs will shift. Jobs will shift from a pure transactional job to a more technical job or technology-oriented jobs. So I think the youth of tomorrow and the companies need to be prepared for this transition, that the jobs will change as technology takes over.
It's a very stressful environment also. Do we need to, the organization need to take specific effort to retrain for technology, or create that mindset? And Nikita, how does one prepare somebody for resilience?
When the pandemic happened, I can honestly tell you that the first 1 week we were all just wondering what are we going to do, because travel was one of the most disrupted organizations, so to say. Mental well-being of our employees took a direct hit. What we realized was that it became very, very important for us to train our employees to manage situations of stress. Be it through sessions on managerial effectiveness, how do you manage your teams that are working remotely? Be it about restructuring. Also, we are trying to make the entire organization more flexible, more agile. We are doing a lot of work on reskilling our population. It'll take time. But what we're trying to do right now is prepare them that, while this particular disruption may go, you don't know what will come tomorrow. And therefore, you have to be prepared for it.
Amit, how do you see the future workplace? What will it be like? What is the ideal mix? And what is your advice to leaders and people who are running the organizations or running the individual businesses and departments?
The workplace of the future, the way I see it is, obviously, it will be hybrid, and we will have a lot more of collaborating through different mediums that will kind of happen. But to my mind, I think a very important piece for the workplace of the future, or at least leaders for the future, is going to be this whole point around empathy. And I think empathy is an often used and misunderstood term, in terms of the value it delivers. That's the one comment I would say about the workplaces of the future. The second is about recognizing that the only way we will actually, grow, or the only way we will progress, because I am what we call as Ashavadi. I am always an optimist. Yeah, I always say that the only way that will happen is if we continue to take risks and continue to keep throwing darts at a dartboard. You will throw 20 darts, 3 will stick. So we will have to continuously keep finding newer ways. We will not, I think it's the leaders of the future need to recognize that we will not always get everything right the first time. We will go through a couple of models, we'll work through it, we'll come back, we'll manage, we'll, move forward. But the key has to always be with one eye on the future. Otherwise we risk becoming a Fuji or a Kodak, which, never realized that at one stage you could have a smartphone that would actually obliterate the need to actually take photographs through a camera. So to my mind, if you have one eye on the future and one eye on flexibility and empathy as a combination, then that's what makes for an exciting workplace for people to look forward to, whether it's virtual or whether it's in person.
Okay, thank you for that, Amit. I'll take that with me at home, at work, both. So thank you very much.
We're all set to bring to you our fireside chat on centering equity, women, and the future of human resource leadership.
So, Amrit, thanks for joining in today. And, I've been hiring for technology organizations for the last 2 decades. And something that's always been very close to my heart has been how organizations have evolved in the last decade or so from making diversity and centering equity as a tick mark to now being actually driven on the ground. So, Amit, to kick off, would be keen to hear how you see it, and how does GoDigit and the organization that you have worked for have internalized this in bringing diversity to the forefront?
I think any organization which promotes equity, it benefits by having a competitive advantage of a diverse talent in the system. For us in Digit, I think besides making and positioning inclusion as a core value, we've always vouched for upholding merit in all jobs. We have a very strong equal opportunity policy where no role is driven by any kind of bias. We are the only insurance company where all key leadership positions are held by women. But equity and diversity in our company is more than just the gender ratio. Bias, as you know, can be driven by background. It can be driven by origin, sexual orientation, caste, and religion. And we have been making small steps to being inclusive in all these areas as well. And at the end of the day, the mandate to every hiring manager in Digit is that you have to see what does this new hire really bring to your team that you don't already have in terms of skills, in terms of background, and in terms of perspectives.
So when you look at talent attraction today, you talked about having hiring managers. How do you coach them?
We have just finished running a hiring right program for all levels of managers across all departments, where our focus has been to make them aware of their hidden personal biases, and it has helped them understand that how does this unconscious bias impact your work or impact your hiring practices.
Right.
We've been running these kind of programs for all our hiring managers, and the response has been phenomenal.
How do you see it going forward? What are organizations going to do to ensure sustainability of these programs?
So I think for anything to evolve in an organization, you must keep measuring your progress. Because
Right.
if you do not keep track of your diversity statistics on a regular basis, you completely lose focus. So one thing would be to create a diversity scorecard and link the scorecard to the scorecard of your business heads so that they also end up driving it. So if it has to evolve, it requires a lot of intent, it requires a lot of hard work, it requires commitment, not from the organization, but from the leaders. And as long as any company understands that the cost of a higher turnover is less than the cost to drive greater equity, you're in a good place.
Thank you so much, Amrita.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. I think it was a pleasure listening to the two of you conversing. We'd like to get all set for our fireside chat on leveraging technology to build a high-performance culture and workforce of the future. So looking forward to this very, very engaging session right here. Over to you.
We live in a world where technology is rapidly disrupting everything that we do. And so it's natural to expect that technology has a large role to play, even in terms of changing and improving the talent management processes that we have in our organizations. So Dharmender, how are you looking at talent acquisition process at scale that organizations like yours do, and how has it evolved over the last couple of years? And help us understand how you're looking at that.
Interview is all about two people lying to each other. Okay, and in my opinion, I completely agree that it is the technology that is going to take over.
Yeah.
It is not that we have to run after. People are not going to run after the job. Jobs are going to run after the talent. But the point is that will technology play a great role? And I absolutely agree with that, because more and more world is becoming digital. It is also becoming flatter and flatter because technology is enabling everyone. Now, whether it is an onboarding process, it is about understanding the behavior of the candidates, it is about exchanging the views with each other during the process of recruitment, or enabling the people when they are on board. I think every single step is going to get technology enabled. At the same time, when we have to go and measure the productivity, that again is getting technology enabled, because it is one thing to say that the work from home is going to stay, the hybrid work environment is going to be the reality, and we need to really look at that. How will we measure the productivity not by the number of hours clocked in the office or on the work, but the productivity is being measured by the real outcome that is going to happen.
Sumit, so how are you doing it, looking at this phase of post-offer to the time they actually come in and they're settling down in their roles, the first 30 days or so? How is technology helping you address some of those challenges there?
That's one area where we do believe technology is quite weak, at least for us at this point in time. And this is an area where we are increasing our intervention of people touch. See, I won't say unfortunately, but the reality of the Indian workforce is that it is okay to resign an offer after accepting it, right? And in many cultures, it is considered to be a very, very, how do you say, unprofessional conduct. In India, it's passé. Oh yeah, I had this offer, I said yes, but now I'm saying no. What's the big deal about it? I haven't yet joined you. And that's cultural. So what we are really doing over there is we have set up a separate wing or team or whatever focus you might call it, whose only job is to engage with people who have already been offered and just spend time with them, assimilating or onboarding them onto the culture of the firm, for them to get a sense for the workplace of who we are and how we operate and what culture do we have. I think that appeals significantly to people.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dharmender. Sumit, I think it's a very enlightening conversation.
Perfect. Thank you, Shekhar.
Big thank you to all our speakers and at the same time our delegates for tuning in, and let us really look forward to reimagining workforce productivity by being open, by taking pointers from all that has been said from our experts who've joined us from across the globe today. Thank you for joining us.